Arpit sir, can the students please sit down? Arpit sir, students.
Chef Ajay, please, you're most wanted here. आप यहाँ आ जाओ, यहाँ पी लो. Tarandeep, why don't you join us for a... Okay, it's nice to see you, all here. And though I wish, the weather being such, this is the time to be in a nice resort hotel, And whenever while I was doing some research on the subject, I was going to all your websites, and they all look so tempting, that you just want to leave everything and go. And, instead of being here, be in one of your properties, So thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And it's a, you represent 4 different kinds of, property structures. We have got Chef Ravitej Nath, who we still call a chef. He remains a chef at heart, but essentially today he's also the director of a very much sought after niche resort called Karma Chalets. It's a very nice property. We have got Abinash, who's now how many 3 years in Welcome Group? Yeah, the 2nd year. Okay, and of course WelcomHeritage is. It's a mega brand by itself. How many properties do you have? Can you use the mic? Radhika, we'll need some more mics. If you don't mind. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. 40 properties.
40 properties. Okay, so that's much more than what I last knew. So, so that's good.
We've signed a few.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And of course we've got Ramit Sethi, who. He was just talking about his properties in the niche category, small, villas, things which will not excite the big boys of hoteliering, but very, very interesting, as we'll talk about eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
And, Mehul, you have been in this business now for quite some time. I think you're one of the earliest, players in the organized segment, you're a startup in the organized segment. There have been resort hotels, there have been small hotels, but they've all been like mom and pop shops. All you guys are trying to organize the business and make it a big business. So Mehul, we'll start from you. Talk about your experience and how was it? How has it been over the years? And like everyone was talking about how resorts were doing fabulous business during the COVID days because everyone was escaping, everyone was driving to the nearest resort or nearest resort hotel. What has changed since COVID, or what have you gained from your COVID experience?
Okay, maybe have the attention of everybody out there. I think we've got a lot of networking happening.
Can all the students, can you guys, hello, Anirban? Radhika, can you please use your charms to get people come closer,
Anyway, so I'm going to quickly start off. Our company was incorporated in 2019, just before the COVID started. So we ran about 12 hotels in a span of about 10 months. COVID has been an absolutely changing experiences. I think one thing we realized is that there is an absolute scarcity of the fund flow which happened because the segment got really, really hit hard. We still remain bootstrapped, although we've just finalizing some terms. But as a business entity, what we realize, especially before COVID and after COVID, is that the ease of doing business in the last 3 months, especially the inputs which is coming in from the government, especially the FDIs which is opening up, especially the lot of open forums which the government is doing, the inflow of the tourism is absolutely there. However, in terms of the government strategies and the lack of infrastructure or the ease of doing business, especially we still not there. We considered 55th country in terms of a tourism destination. We've jumped about 7 places. However, the contribution which remains as a part of the GDP is just about 6-7%. So although the demand is increasing, but in terms of the infrastructure, supply, the real-time investments into the hospitality industry still remains a concern. And that's being addressed as we speak now. So that's something which has been...
Yeah, which is important because, you know, the hotels in your segment, most of the hotels are in small,
Right.
small, what we call the off the map, destinations. Like Abinash, you must be. I mean, most of your hotels are quite far away from the nearest highway. You know, sort of. Yeah. Okay. So, of course, I don't know the way highways are going. Maybe they're all highways. You know, but you know, how do you manage the issue of infrastructure, which Mehul has rightly red flagged, you know. There is, you know, especially in areas where you are located, there must be infrastructure problems. How do you get over those problems?
So just to add on to what Mehul mentioned, I think the inherent structure of the companies who operate in this business has changed. At one time, it used to be, as you mentioned, Secluded, from where he used the name. But the COVID period really led to an explosion of hotels and resorts that were accessible. Which means that, as you rightly said in the beginning, there was no air travel. So anybody who had a car and had a highway or a road would travel. So the growth of this segment really is happening to those cities which are accessible. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for a property to be commercially viable over a period of time. And even our growth in the last year and a half, 2 years, is now primarily to those cities which are accessible. But they are still, as you mentioned, resorts. They are boutique in nature. They are experiential in nature. So we've opened properties in places like Cochin, or Fort Cochin, which is very art, deco, you know,
it's a historic
touristy.
property. Right?
Absolutely. We're opening properties where highways are coming up. The Chandigarh-Shimla dual highway is creating so many commercial opportunities now. At one time, Himachal used to be Shimla. Today, on that same stretch, you've got Kasauli, you've got Solan, you've got Chel, you've got Kufri, you've got Mashobra, you've got Shimla. One highway has changed the entire commercial landscape of that state.
And you know, earlier going to Shimla was itself an enterprise, you know. But today it's like an easy drive, you know. I mean, and beyond Shimla now.
So, you know, we did a conference for promoting Himachal as a state. And we were the host hotel. The governor came and local authorities. Shimla is one of the few places where the government is starting heliports. There are 8 heliports being built in Himachal. And all the delegates, including us, went there by helicopter. 15 minutes. As you mentioned, earlier you would take 4 hours to go to Chandigarh by road. Even if you went by air, 2 hours before, 2 hours after, half an hour by flight, 4 hours. Now you reach in 4 hours, you get the connecting helicopter flight, and you can reach in 4.5 hours. Leave at 7:30, reach at 10:30. Is it possible today? So accessibility in the current scheme is becoming very, very easy or easier. The trains are a big help. They are getting upgraded. Helicopters are coming in all the hills locations. Accessibility is easier. The Udan scheme has made things much better. Airports are functional now. They're not functional earlier. So things have changed.
Udan has been a big boost, I think, for this
Absolutely.
business. Yeah.
Many airlines have started getting more and more ATRs.
Right.
So, you know, the environmental landscape has changed, is changing.
Right.
And it all comes through one word, which you hit on, accessibility. Make it accessible, the resort will run. As long as it's got quality, service, product, etc.
So, Ravitej, like talking about accessibility, in Karma Chalets there's no accessibility problems. I mean, it has, I remember even like when McDonald's opened, there was a McDonald's at, at your property, and, so going there was an adventure then, like 20 years ago, or, 25 years ago. But today it's like almost next door, Now, how do you maintain a resort character when you are sort of just almost next door to Delhi, So people will say, hey, what's the great idea of just going for 45 minutes and reaching a destination and thinking we're in a resort,
So thanks, Harish. First of all, yeah, the McDonald's is still there, of
Yeah.
course, and it's a tenant of ours.
My son keeps driving to that place, so I know all about it.
Yeah, and of course, we have got some feedback also with some guests. What you mentioned, the drive was so smooth. It took us only about 30 minutes to reach here, and वो feeling ही नहीं आई कि resort गए. So I told them, you can always go to Behror, take a U-turn and come back. अगर आपको feeling है. But jokes apart, it's like he said, accessibility is the key, and we are at the border of Gurgaon, the last sector, and that has helped us tremendously because you don't waste time on a one-day getaway or even a two-day getaway. It's not. Otherwise, it's about 4.5 hours, 5 hours to any place. Even if you're Jaipur, 3.5 hours maybe. So 3.5, 7. You've already lost. Then you sleep. You've lost a lot of time. So if you want to maximize your time, that's where we come in. And the big challenge for us is, as you mentioned, we also have a very popular restaurant under the Neem. And under the Neem actually took off before Karma Chalets took off. Although Karma
I
Chalets
think
started
you have made it like a food destination, sort of.
yeah. It was supposed to be a small cafe in the middle of nowhere. It's just become quite popular and we're not complaining. But that has helped. We do about 300 covers on a weekend.
How much?
300 people come
Wow.
in, non-residents.
Okay.
So, when guests check in, they don't expect to see so many people. And we felt that's also not right. In fact, this year, in about 15 days, we've actually converted one of our villas into a reception lounge just for our in-house guests, which will be exclusive. So they'll be taken directly there. And, there's a completely different sort of a check-in process, a welcome
So
process.
they feel
which we
that
do.
they're a little away from
Correct,
the
correct.
bustle of the city.
Because end of the day, that's what people come here for. It's the quiet. It's to get away from hustle and bustle. So we don't want to create another India Gate, in Manesar or there. So we've taken cognizance and sort of separated it.
Great. Ramit, talking about Seclude hotels, I was seeing your, I hope your website is true to what exactly happens on the ground. Your website is a lovely website, and I was just charmed by the hotels. By, I would say your little hideaways, Yeah, I mean, I know that Abinash has these grand palaces and forts, but yours are little hideaways. Tell me about the management problems of, like you talk to any big hotelier, they'll say, these places don't make money, Of course, we have got Kapil Chopra now, who has become the biggest proponent of these small villas turning into hotels, So what is your, from a business perspective, how do these stand, these small properties?
So in a way, me and my partner Rohit is in the audience. He started it. We are blessed because we never came from the hotel industry. So we were never burdened.
You're a chartered accountant.
So is he.
Oh, okay.
And I was a banker in my previous life. Then I ran Wipro BPO, so I was a process guy. And after I gave up my corporate career and became an angel investor, I joined him. We joined hands. And we did it out of passion. So we always understood numbers and how things work. Because I used to actually fund companies and for outcomes. But this one was real. So we did it with a lot of passion. And we realized that thanks to the hotels leaving this entire sector unattended, we were quite happy to pick up villas, so anything which is 4 rooms to what the industry considers unviable. I'll keep thinking of their definition. Maybe 18 keys is unviable. So we'll only move in this area. And we will run it very differently. and we will run it with young people and local people. I feel the world has totally changed. You either have to be under 30 to really know a world which exists, because there is a way you attract customers, the way you sell, you use a lot of IT, you lose a lot of engagement. And there is a world which is over 50 which understands how the general usual dynamic works. So we picked up these hotels and villas, etc. And there we were building it to a particular standard and design. And we realized that people love design. Okay, they liked the fact that we cut out wood and just pasted it on the wall like a headboard. They liked the fact that we took these old bartans and hung it upside down and cane baskets, and they found it very chic. And we became known for design. And then I had my friends from my banking days visit who stayed only in the great ITCs of the world and all of that, right? And they're sitting down with me and says, Ramit, you said this place doesn't have luxury. How do you define luxury? This is luxury. I'm having a barbecue. There is a candlelight setting. I slip into the bed that's comfortable with electric blanket. This is luxury, man. So that got us thinking, and we expanded on this fact. Now the question was, how do you make money? Of course, that's our secret sauce, but the fact is that we use local people. We upskill them. They don't have a job definition like housekeeping, service. Of course, we place a lot of importance on the food. So the food has to be top class. And we honestly believe that flavor is something which comes from a guy's skill. I don't know how. There are some guys who will manage the flavors, and there are some guys who just won't manage the flavors. Okay, they may be the world's best chefs. So we go for the flavors guy. We dress him up nicely. We appeal to all the senses. You put something out. So we don't feed you. You cannot have food in the room. There is no room service. So that's our little thing we get stuck on. So you have to have food with a community, the people who are visiting the resort. Or you choose any place in our lovely resort and we'll make an arrangement for you, under the tree, under the stars, wherever. So you really appeal to all your senses as you dig into your food. And if you've gone out for a little trek or something, you're so hungry that everything is good. Right? So that's how we started.
Right.
Yeah.
So your thing is, your emphasis is on experience, basically. And
The experience, once a person,
the luxury of experience.
it's what I like to call affordable luxury. So we're never going to be high priced.
So Abinash, talking about food, because he raised the issue of food, and ITC and food are synonymous. I mean, good food and ITC hotels absolutely, they go hand in hand. So say for WelcomHeritage, you're in places which have lots of hidden recipes, and from Jaisalmer to wherever. I even have gone to Darjeeling and seen your property there. So everywhere there are these hidden culinary secrets. How do you tap them, and how do you turn them into a food turn them into food destinations?
I think you've hit a very important point, and I think he's already mentioned it. At least in the COVID period, the domestic traveler will not compromise on one thing, and that is food. So everybody, if you do the standard hotel system, you will get a buffet and stuff. But those who are cooped up at home for months on end, when they go out, they want, and you already the word experiences. And there is a set of customers who want the hotel feel. They want the lobby and the fancy room and the large TV and air conditioning and so on. And there is a large part now, because of the change in customer profiling, who wants the un-hotel look. And they are the ones who are really looking for these resorts. They don't want the glass and concrete buildings. They have enough of that. So they are very happy to go to, say, his resort. It's not very far, easily accessible. And he says he's great food, he's himself a chef. A good recipe for success. So we have hotels now across the country, from North, right from Leh Ladakh, all the way to J&K, to Himachal, to UP, and everywhere what we have done, we find that while the customer wants to go and experience local cuisine, he definitely wants it. The minute he spends more than 2 to 3 days, he wants the same old food. मेरे को दाल रोटी चाहिए. बहुत कर लिया मैंने ये local खाना. I enjoyed it, but so we have a standard sort of menu which operates across the country because our customers come from the same cities. There are 3 cities they come from mostly. Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore are your big bases. There is a set from Gujarat, of course, Bengal, etc. But by and large, they're all urban guys. They want, the kids want the same pizza in the end. So we have a very strong local section where we want as we said, tap on the local. We ensure we hire from the same area. It's much easier for us. Hiring from big cities is a non sequitur. Doesn't work.
It's not going to work, you know.
वो रोता रहेगा कि मैं वहाँ क्यों चला गया. He'll go for the first few months, enjoy, and then he says, I want to go back to higher agency and work rather than, why did I join catering college, etc., etc. So those who stay are the ones who are passionate, and they really do very well. And the good thing about the industry is that it's become very remunerative on the leisure side. Leisure hotels in the last 2 years have hit pay dirt. Everybody has, as you mentioned, traveled, rates have gone up, quality has increased. What was wrong, what I would have felt, what was lacking in India is quality of resorts. And there is a new breed of investors who's building these resorts. Because these are what are called local travelers. They go globally and they want the same experience back in India. And milta nahi hai because all us large companies are building large hotels. And suddenly the world turned upside down. And now the traveler wants an hotel, resort feel,
So
etc.
like for instance, IHCL also has ventured into this with its Ama properties, and everyone is sort of looking at.
Yeah, I think they also had the same
Right.
customer feedback. See who travels to our resorts. The same guy who goes to Delhi for business, or Bombay or Bangalore, used to go with. We have a huge database. But now he says, I don't travel to work anymore. I work from home or I do hybrid or whatever, but my family wants to travel and I don't mind working from anywhere. That was a big change. Actually, in COVID, all the IT stroke tech heavy companies never really stopped working because they don't have to be physically present in the office. But they work from where they were. So we had guys coming for months. I'm sure you did, so did you. Staying in the hills, and as long as I have Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I'm okay.
So one of the things which we insist on when we take on our properties, and ours are in secluded areas, right? Could be the hills, it could be even somewhere on the beach.
How do you
We
get
put
connectivity?
great Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Great Wi-Fi. You can, at a cost, get fiber to your place. People sometimes just don't want to make that investment.
So that
You
investment
can
helps you in the long run,
Yeah, they are private operators also. They install your fiber. Or you have a dish which just beams straight in. You don't need any wires as well. But you can get great Wi-Fi. So now, for example, I think it's a bit of a threat to Tata Sky. We don't want to use Tata Sky. We just give the smart TV and you have great internet, 100 Mbps speed. You can do conferences or you can watch TV of your own. People tune in, tune out to their own channel. So that's how we control the costs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Ravitej, as far you don't have any of these problems. Connectivity is not a problem. Wi-Fi is not a problem. So, what I have, gathered from hearing about what people have to say about your lovely resort is the food. Your food is your biggest, selling point. In fact, as you were saying, it is sometimes a liability because if there's so many people in a resort, then others feel, what's the point of coming here? So now, how have you gone about making your food so special? And as far as I know, you were giving a lot of emphasis on local cuisine, local sourcing. And can you explain a bit about your food philosophy?
So Sarish, we don't have any cuisine definition. We have a philosophy which is farm to table. So we have our own farms and we grow, I think, about 70% of our veggies and 30% we need to buy from other farmers, other people who are doing stuff. Nearly all our dairy products are organic. All our pulses, etc., about 60% are organic. Meats or not. We don't call ourselves organic. We don't market ourselves as organic. The reason we buy organic is only for flavor. It's only for flavor. It comes at a price point. I manage that price point in the menu, charge accordingly. But we don't anywhere say that we are organic. Although I would say nearly 60% of what we use is premiumly purchased. Because it's flavor at the end of the day. If you're willing to fly fish from Tsukiji market in Tokyo and asparagus from Peru and pay through your nose for the cargo and the shipment cost, but you're not willing to pay 20 rupees more for a organic milk, or you're not willing to pay 100 rupees more for a cheese, it just doesn't make sense to me. End of the day, people come for the flavor, and no matter what cuisine, as long as it tastes good, and we are in the city, so it's a little Cosmo feel, and we do our own farming. So our menus are not decided by the chefs, it's more by the farmers. Tinda hai to fir tinda hai. Haan. Not only in the cafeteria, but in an innovative way, in your cannelloni also, or in your soup also.
Tinda cannelloni, good.
We don't call it that. We name all our dishes, sorry. So our menu is different. We call it, something we learned from Gurgaon. There's Maple, Emerald, and all these other fancy buildings. And you think you're in Canada, but actually you're in Gurgaon. So our dishes also are Romeo, Avenue. We name the dishes, and each one has a little story. And the menu, it's sort of, I feel, in my opinion, reading a menu is the second most boring thing in a restaurant. First being paying the bill. Now paying the bill, Paytm and all are giving you cash back, scratch card, they've sort of changed that, made it interesting. But the menu has to talk to you. So we name our dishes, it gives a life to the dish. There's a story for every dish. The server can share with you if you have the time. But it's all from our farm. It's all organic. Most of the time. Yeah.
So that's very good. So Mehul, like we've talked a lot about food. We've talked about, but I'll go back. To your original issue that you talked about. That is infrastructure. Talk a little more about it, and and also give an idea of the spread of your hotels. You're 3 years old now.
Yes.
Okay,
So I think coming back to the subject matter which talked about the niche resorts, the challenges and the opportunities, that is the subject matter. So we need to understand that any country, any region cannot progress in terms of hospitality if there is no local support. The support essentially comes in two forms. One is the infrastructure, which is the connectivity, roads, and the second is in terms of the cash flow. In terms of the overall look and feel of how the tourism is being mapped, I mean, only one state has probably decided to give an infrastructure status to the industry. Rest remains the same. GST issues remain the same. VAT remains the same. Connectivity, we're building roads. However, when we talk about niche hospitality, the real niche destinations are currently not being connected. We talk about places, for example, the Golden Triangle of Srinagar, the Gulmarg, Sonmarg and Pahalgam. The connectivity still is not there in terms of the ease of doing business, in terms of the power supply, lease issues after the abrogation of Article 370. There has been a thrust. I mean, if you see the numbers coming in, last year it was about 125,000 people coming in, and this year it's touched about 700,000 people coming in. So the tourism is increasing. However, if the states do not work together in terms of the taxation and the infrastructure, we'll continue to struggle. So what we need to do is, we also work with ASSOCHAM and a couple of other governing bodies, is representing the industry at a forum in which it is given a status of an industry, taxation to come down, and connectivity and infrastructure absolutely has to hit the nail. I mean, Bangkok gets about 30 million people, India gets about 10 million. We're looking at about 59 million jobs by the end of 2029. It contributes roughly about 8-9% and leads 10% to the GDP. That is where the challenges essentially lie. Our hotels are spread across in Bangalore, in Kodaikanal. We've got 4 coming up in Chandigarh, in Solan, in a place called Kumarhatti. We've got Bhiwadi as an industrial township. Again, issues in terms of smaller issues like the electricity costs in some states are way too high compared to the other states. So we end up spending, if you see the balance sheet and if you see the overall cash flow, you will find certain profitability in certain pockets, but the other pockets continue to struggle hard. That's the challenge. The government must infuse a lot of funds. must come up with a lot of more niche marketing. Niche is just not about places, it's all about the support of the government. Till the time that does not happen, we will not be able to attract the kind of people what we're looking at.
Niche destinations, niche tourism has to be recognized as a force to reckon with, and as the future growth area
and the support from the government.
Right.
Nothing can. I mean, ITC, for example, is a brilliant company. However, if you see the contribution to the top line, 5.4% to the overall turnover is only coming from the hotels.
Right.
Remaining is all tobacco. Tobacco is 54%. Why would we do that with such a huge giant? You definitely expect much more performances happening in. That's where the essential challenges lies.
Right. Great. So, we'll sort of wind down, but, Ravi, let's go to you first, let's talk about, you're a single property hotel. Do you have plans for growth? Do you see growth happening, or would you like to be like this old-time restaurateurs to take great pride in one restaurant making it the best in the world,
So I think ours is a unique situation. The owner has, the promoter has got all his land together. It's not spread over many places. So I think he would like to develop that. It's 300 acres. It's a little city. So there's a lot to do.
Amazing. 300 acres in Malesar,
Yeah, so there's a lot to do just right there. So I don't think we are looking at actually moving out and spreading our wings. And the focus is on increasing the quality and increasing the offering and promoting the environment. It's an environment-friendly property, and that takes precedence over everything else. So we're going to be sticking to that. The message of environment, etc., will be spread all over the world, but I don't think we're looking at increasing any more properties. Yeah.
So, Abinash, what about, in terms of the heritage hotel business?
I think it's important for the forum to know. Maybe there's not enough said, so I'm just butting in right now to say that there is a whole industry segment which is forming. These are usual segments. We've talked about it in the last forum as well. There's a whole homestay segment which is absolutely unorganized.
Homestay is a word to use, right?
Yeah, it's totally unorganized. It doesn't exist on paper because people don't license themselves. So they feel the Facebook pe dal do or char log aa jaye, so it leads to unstandardized experiences. I think there is a lot to be said about how people should consider the journey, driving and getting to the destination, and then enjoying a non-hotel experience as part of the hospitality. I mean, I'm so glad somebody invited me here, but otherwise homestays are not even considered a segment of the hospitality industry. There are at least 1 million or 2 million homestays which are lying there waiting to be taken up. People like yourselves, when they visit, you don't know which homestay to go to because one of your kids picks up a phone and says, let's do an Airbnb. You don't do any Airbnb. You select a property actually. Airbnb is just a marketing platform. They don't run them. So there is a lack of standardized experience in India. So in Seclude, what we are trying to do is build a standardized experience. If you're going to a Seclude homestay, तो खाना मिलेगा, bed will be fine, there'll be a manager there, the food can be. So you're organizing an unorganized sector, which is why a person like me and Rohit are actually spending enough time. We're not financed, we're doing it on our own. It is profitable. There's a lot to be said about how this has to be done. I don't need any help from the government. The more they stay out of the way is better. Just license me nicely. All right? I'll raise the finance. I'm a finance guy. All of that is great. But the recognition by the industry itself that it is a segment worth catering to.
I think that is
something which will allow tourists to come in. So foreign tourists are going to come in maybe from October. They should know that there is a reliable homestay, small boutique stays, beautiful mountains. You don't have to be in large places and large lobbies. You have to experience the mountain in 4 rooms, out of your window, touching the clouds.
At our next IHC, we'll have a session on homestays only,
Yeah, you should. I thought it has to be said.
It's very important. It's very important, Homestays are, actually, there are a lot of people who look for homestays,
Taj, what is Taj doing?
Sorry?
Ama Brands is a hotels is a similar concept, but just to add to your angst, Mr. Sethi, the homestay business is alive and well. I think you're in the eye of the storm. You're not seeing the storm around you. There are a lot of people who are interested in the homestay business. There are people who are giving awards for the homestay business. People like Make My Trip recently have a section
Yeah, yeah.
where they have recognized homestays as a segment. Discerning customers prefer homestays to hotels. And that has happened in COVID. So for you, it's a big game changer. And but I completely agree and endorse what he said. Not just homestays. This leisure, discretionary leisure,
Yes.
is a segment that has been ignored or not invested sufficiently by the tourism and hotel industry. When why do 25 million Indians go abroad for a holiday? Just think about it. Why? Because they don't get equally
Experience.
good resorts in India. I mean, anybody can go to Dubai or Thailand at half the price and stay in a lovely resort. So the resort business or the leisure business is developed in emerging countries. India, not so much. You have the standard Delhi, Agra, Jaipur as a triangle. But now, with the last few years of investments and the kind of business that is traveling to these cities, I think you're going to see a change, a shake-up in the industry structure. India, for too long, is skewed towards large business and conference hotels. And that too in 3 cities, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. Now that whole game, I think, like other countries, is probably going to shift.
And also, I think now a lot of new tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities are emerging, and they are coming off on their own. Say the northeast itself, it's an unexplored territory for much of India.
Absolutely,
No?
absolutely.
So the way we select our places, we don't go only for just traffic, because then you compete with the rental market, because the properties are inherently smaller. They're not built to be hotels. They were built to be something else. Maybe a hunting lodge, maybe a large home, a heritage home, a haveli, or whatever else. They were not built like a hotel, right? So they have to be transferred to a livable entity, and there's an element of redesign there. So what happens is that it has to become normal for people to go a little out of the way. So some of our places, people have to go off-road for about 1 kilometer. So they love it. They go off the road, they drive onto this dirt track, and they...
So I think, what all of you gentlemen are saying, the 3 things I can gather. One is, of course, there is, of course, you said that the government should stay out of it, but unfortunately, infrastructure is in the hands of the government, whether it's the central government or the state government. So we are dependent on infrastructure, whether it's connectivity by road or by anything else, So infrastructure is big. We have to look at it, especially in emerging destinations within the city. Second, what I could gather from this discussion, that this discretionary leisure segment has to be given a push. And it has, of course, the industry has to come together and do it. Because I think all our discourses so far have been about big hotels, big investments. Like Hixa, we all know about, it's big, but they all talk about the big boys, This time we talked about the people who really serve the niche markets, And I think the experiential tourism is now a buzzword. It has to develop because everyone is looking for a way out of life outside the cookie cutter hotels.
But having said that, in the last 2-3 years, even during COVID and beyond, I have seen definitely the roads improve.
Yeah.
Okay, the UP roads have improved, the Himachal roads have improved. So driving and getting to anywhere is a distinct possibility.
Yeah. And in fact, increasingly India is becoming drivable, that, which helps all your businesses, So I'm, unfortunately, we'll have to wrap up. It's an interesting discussion on an area which is not much discussed about, but, it's great. The idea came from my colleague Radhika Arora, and I think I don't see her anywhere, so I'll do what she normally does, and that is, there she is. Okay, good, come. Yeah, can you come and, Radhika? Yeah, please, you're much needed now.
Thank you, Suresh ji. Thank you, panelists, for the wonderful session. I'm sure the audience would have learned a lot from you. May I now request Sudeep sir to please come on stage and hand over the mementos to the speakers.
This is Mr. Sudeep Roy. He's the CEO of IEML, and he's the man behind. 12 big shows are held here every year. How many shows this year? 40 shows. Okay. And despite that, he looks like. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, right. Sudeep Sharkar. Oh, okay, sir.
Mr. Mehul Sharma. Mr. Ramit Sethi.
So lovely to see you again, you know. Yeah, because we never met, I think, even physically. We've only done it.
Mr. Abinash Manghani. Chef Ravitej Nath.
Thank you so much.
May I request all the panelists for a quick video bites? My colleague Ansh will be there. Please spare 5 minutes.
Please, 5 minutes and, you know.
And can we have a group photograph, please? Sorry, Ji.
But where is the photographer? Okay, let's.
Thank you again. We'll be starting with our next session. We are running a little late, so we'll start with the next session soon. Maybe, sorry, Ji, 5 minutes? I think we'll start with the